Thank you for your patience. I've never claimed to be an IT person, and that's evident. My name's Robyn Arab, and I work for the Harpeth Hills Church of Christ as their social worker and director over the senior ministry there. I've been a social worker for over 40 years, and I've run the gamut of home health, non-medical care, and now working with seniors through Harpeth Hills. The Harpeth Hills, I was thinking I had the wrong presentation when I looked down. The Harpeth Hills Church brought me on over 14 years ago. I came in as a contract worker, and then just 2 years ago I joined staff. And when I joined staff, they said, go do what you will. And so I have, and we've started a sunny day program and some other programs for the staff, for the members. But we don't only serve our members, we also serve the community. So if you ever need help with resources, that's what I do, just talking through some things. Some folks will just say, I just need to say this out loud, let me talk to you, and we talk through it. And then the other programs are also available to anybody in the community. So today we're going to talk about Caregiving 101. And some of this is pretty practical information, and I believe that later in this series you will get more in-depth information past what I'm doing. But today's just a little taste of getting you used to the terminology, the definitions. I did bring a copy of what the different words are so that you can do the lingo, and then they think you're really smart when you start talking to them. They're like, oh, they know how to talk to us. So, in the presentation, I will typically refer to the person I care for as my mother, so it's always she when I talk, but that's just for everybody to know that was my experience personally. She was 90 years old. She had dementia, she had vascular dementia, and she wasn't a great person anyhow, and she really wasn't fun when she had dementia. So I've got lots of stories, but she was a spunky little lady, and she would give it right back to me. So let's get started. So basically, this is just a brief of who are the caregivers. And there's 11 million caregivers in the United States that are unpaid. Mostly, they are about 2/3 are women. And that just is pretty typical that that's who it falls on. 30% of the caregivers are over age 65. Around 1/4 of those people fall into the sandwich or the panini generation. So the sandwich generation is when you as an adult are caring for your mother or your parents, an older person, and you still have your children in the home and you're caring for those children as well. So you're torn between those different duties. The panini generation, which is very prominent these days, is you're caring for the older person, you're caring for your children, and your children's children. So that's just, it's all squished in there and just makes it a bit more compact and more stress on each person. One of the statistics that I will get to is if you're over the age of 70 and you are caring for a spouse, a parent, somebody who's older, 66% of those people will predecease the person they're caring for because they're not taking care of themselves. And that's a huge number. And that's what happens in caregiving. We provide everything we can for the person we're caring for, but we're not providing care for ourselves. So here's some of the duties of a caregiver. Shopping, food preparation, housekeeping, laundry, transportation, doctor's visits, giving medicines. It's the extra wife that everybody needs just to help you get through. And that's a lot if you're piling that on top of a job, on top of children at home. So these, and you may have heard of this, and that's on the little sheet, the instrumental activities of daily living. So these are the skills that you can accomplish alone or be able to contact somebody to come in and help you with those. So you're still going to be living in your own home, not in a facility, or maybe a facility in independent living. But these different things you can still do. The handling the transportation, but it might be calling somebody. It might be calling somebody to come do the lawn work. It might be calling somebody a CPA helping you with your finances, but you're still able to make reasonable decisions, and those are the things that you can continue to do at home alone. So, steps to take now. When you start noticing, I hear this so much with families, we went to visit and Mom just seemed really different. I can't put my finger on it. What is it? Well, we need to start stopping by more to investigate. You know, we think, oh, they're doing great. I can't get by this week. I'll go another week. And it's not coming and staying for a long period of time. It is just stopping in and just see what's going on. My mother lived in Pennsylvania, so I had to rely on siblings or other folks up there to tell me what was going on. Actually, I had no clue that she had dementia until her male friend said, she repeats a lot. So stop by to investigate. It's things like the home. Were your parents neat? Did they keep a clean house? Did they have everything in its place? Well, is it not neat now? Maybe things are on the counter. It's a little bit cluttered. You often hear about older folks having hoarding issues, and it's stacks of paper. Oh, I need this because I can reach it from my chair. My mom had so many newspapers that she scribbled people's phone numbers down, people's names, because it was right in front of her. And maybe my mom was meticulous in the yard. And if the grass got too long, you're thinking, was she not able to, or is she not remembering to? So just little detective type things to look around. Broken appliances. My mom would always say, I'm not buying a new washing machine because it will outlive me. So I'm just going to go to the laundromat. So she went to the laundromat and didn't replace her washing machine until we just finally stepped in and said, you're getting a new washing machine. The cooking and the eating. We all know that people who eat alone, it's not as enjoyable. We like the fellowship. We like talking to people. We like getting along with other people. So I don't feel like cooking a meal for one person. So it may be, I'll eat cereal or popcorn. And that's okay once in a while, but when that's going on and they're not getting the nutrition they need, that can start the decline as well. And then the self-care. I hear this so often, Mom stinks. She hasn't taken a bath in I don't know how long. And she'll say, oh, I had it yesterday, or I don't want it, because they have fear of falling. If they have dementia, the shower coming down on their head is scary. So they just don't do it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm sitting here all day long. I don't need to bathe. And a lot of times they will not let their family members bathe them. It's embarrassment. So I find that if you find somebody to come in and do that for you, whether it be a friend, another family member, or a company, they will typically follow the rules. Because remember, if you're caring for a parent, you are just a little child. You don't know anything. It doesn't matter how much you know or what you're doing and in what profession. You don't know anything about me. I'm your mother. You don't tell me what to do. My mother used to say to me, I'm not one of your patients. Don't treat me like that. And I'd say, well, then don't act like them. So just noticing those different things. And it could be, hey, Mom, I'll stay in the bedroom while you take a shower. Just there as a standby assist, if that gets them in. So when these things start showing up, this is the big one. We all hate the driving talk. So when you start noticing dents, my mother decided she was going to drive in those yellow cement things they have in parking lots. She was going to she could fit through there. There's the big yellow streak on the side of her car. Or I'd call and she'd say, oh, my car's down at so-and-so's. Well, why? Well, I had a little bump. Somebody hit me. Okay. So if they stop doing their errands, they don't do them on their own. Maybe you come, can you take me to Walmart this week? Can you take me to the grocery store? They're asking for that extra help. So you know the decline is coming. Doctor's visits are very important. How many times, and this can work for husbands too, do you go into the doctor, Mom goes into the doctor, what did the doctor say? Oh, he said I'm good. It's all good, I'm fine. It's all good. No. I started going to the doctor with my mom, and she would say, it's all fine. And I asked her one time, I said, why are you telling her that when you've been complaining about this pain? Well, it didn't hurt right now, so I wasn't going to tell her. So I would place myself behind my mom, but in the eyesight of the doctor. So when the doctor said, do you have pain? No, I'm going. And it doesn't affect my mother. She doesn't know that I'm doing that. Of course, my mother did catch on, and we were in cahoots. But it helps the doctor know what's going on. It helps get a clearer picture for yourselves, because then you come out and you say, well, Mom, what did the doctor say? Oh, she said I was just fine. No, that's not what she said. So you're there, you're hearing, and you can find out what's going on. So before I do this, it's not on this slide, but I had added it in. When I talked about earlier, we talked about taking care of the caregiver themselves. And we all need rest, food, shelter, and acceptance, comfort. So in that situation, we are making sure the person we're caring for is getting those things, but you're not sleeping. If you've cared for anybody, that's the last thing I thought of when I went to bed. It's the first thing I thought of when I got up the next morning. It was a restless sleep. Or you get called in the middle of the night, you have to go to the hospital, you have to do different things. You're just not resting, because you're also taking care of your own issues and things going on in your own life. The eating, grab fast food. That can go on for years. The typical length of a caregiving situation is about 4 years. So 4 years of eating fast food, you're not real healthy, or you just don't eat at all. So we've got to remember that if we don't take care of ourselves, who is going to take care of that person? If you become sick, especially in a spousal situation, if you become sick, who's going to be at the home with the spouse? If you have to go to the hospital, you've got to think those things through. You have to have those things in place moving forward. And that's part of taking care of yourself. And a lot of taking care of ourselves is building a team. And your team can be your doctor. It can be myself, a church member, a friend, siblings, aunts and uncles. It's anybody who can help you on that journey. And a lot of times people say, well, what can I do to help you? And your answer is, I got it, I'm good. And so people don't come back and ask. Well, and then I'm saying, I asked you for help and you didn't help me. Why didn't you help me? And she has no idea what I want her to do. So we've got to share, we've got to build the team. Everybody talk together as a team, especially during this time. There's a lot of stress over relationships, siblings, family members. Mom's not doing it the way I thought. Stepmothers and stepfathers, and all of that gets real messy when you have the blended families that nobody's paying attention and you're all fighting and frustrated doing it. So some example is I was out of town. My sister and my brother were in town with my mom. So they could be the ones calling facilities or calling the doctors or going to the doctor's appointments because I couldn't get there. I was 700 miles away. So it's those type things. I have lots of families that'll call and say, I'm doing the footwork for my sister-in-law. She's overwhelmed. So it's talking to the doctor, getting that permission, signing a HIPAA release, which is giving you permission to talk to the doctors. So building that team is going to help the caregiving get through. What if you want to go on a vacation? Trust me, I was on a vacation and I get this call. I'm laying on the beach, boom. My vacation is now ruined because I didn't set somebody up to take care of what I needed. So just know that you need to ask for help. It's healthy to ask for help. And honestly, people are blessed by somebody asking. What I would say is have a little jar ready. So when you come up and say, what can I do for you? I can pull that out. Can you come in and help me put some new light bulbs in? It's really dark in here and Mom can't see. So have things set up for you to go through all of that you know when somebody catches you off guard. So ADLs are assisted daily living. So these are the bathing, the dressing, transferring, toileting, and eating. So these are the 5 things. If you have to go to a facility, or if you're considering going to a facility, this is what they will base it on. They will say you have to have at least 2 of these things on this list that you're unable to do before they will accept you into a facility.
You're saying memory care, Robyn?
Memory care is beyond that. That's just assisted living. Memory care is, a lot of times it starts out with wandering, and they need a safer, smaller spot. I think people like to start at assisted living because it's a little bit cheaper. But yes, that is part of memory care as well. So let's go over the types of caregivers. There's the non-medical companies, the medical home health, and then care managers. So who pays for these services? That's always the big one. And the caregiving services, this is non-medical that we're talking about. Well, these are all the payers, actually, of all the different services, and they go into different parts of the groups. So it's private pay, long-term care insurance, which a lot of people will say, I have no idea if mom or dad or whoever has long-term care insurance. That's really important to find out. Medicare will pay for some things, 10 Care will pay for a few things. There's caregiving grants out there that you can get. There's VA benefits, the home and community-based services, and there's a new program out called the GUIDE program. So as we go through, I'll tell you which is which. One thing about the long-term care companies, people will say to me, I do have it, and most of them have a waiting period of anywhere from 0 days to 90 days. And they'll say, but I'm waiting for the big event. Guess what? It's the big event. You've paid into this for so long, and now you're not going to use it. You're not going to pull the trigger when it's time. And you can go back. There's different things, but if you call in to your long-term care company, they will have a nurse come and evaluate you. Those 5 things that we just looked at, you have to be, it's the same thing. At least 2 of those you're not able to complete on your own. Caregiving grants, there's companies here in Middle Tennessee. There's the Caregiver Coalition. There's GNRC that has a caregiver program. Home and community-based, I don't know if you've heard of that. It's probably, Choices is maybe a word that you've heard. That's through the 10 Care program. That is based on health and finances. The GUIDE program that is new is through Medicare, and they are, if you use a company that will bill GUIDE, Medicare will pay for some of the care if the person is at home, has dementia, diagnosed dementia. And I don't know the other one. I can't remember that. But the biggest thing is that they have to have dementia. And you have to go through a company. So you couldn't just walk in and go to Medicare and say, I want to be paid through the GUIDE program. They will pay the companies, and then you will use the companies. And I believe it's 85 hours a year, and then it renews every year. And it starts in July, the program does. So non-medical companies. There's lots of them, lots and lots and lots of them all around the area. They are available 24/7. The things that they will do is housekeeping, light housekeeping, meal prep, bathing, grooming, transfers, assistance to the bathroom. They can do errands, they can do transportation, companionship, and they are licensed and bonded. So when you go to one of these companies, if something goes missing in your home or the person falls, that company will take care of it. That's part of their bonding and their licensure. Now, because they're non-medical, they can do medication reminders. They cannot do anything medical. So it goes down to even if you need Aspercreme, that caregiver cannot put that Aspercreme on you. They have to squeeze it into the person's hand, flip the person's hand over, and rub it where it needs to go. That's the extent of it for their licensing. We recently had someone that the parent needed CPR in the home, and the girl, by law, was not allowed to touch that patient, and the family was quite upset. And they were going back to the company saying, we're going to sue you, we're going to do whatever. But that's part of their licensure, is that they cannot do anything medical. These folks, like I said, there's a lot around. All the companies are basically the same. And remember, they're salespeople. So when they come to you and start talking, they're going to sell you. Now, we know that's sales and that's business, and that's how they make their living. But you'll get the feeling of which company you feel the best with. Talk to people, friends who've used companies, talk to anybody, church members, call me if it's a good company or not. But they basically do the same things. The difference is their caregivers and their pricing. So you are looking at anywhere from $34 to $40 an hour for somebody to come in and do caregiving. So unless you are just over the top wealthy, that's not sustainable. So a lot of folks start with this, they bring people in, and then as it progresses, they make other decisions. The companionship, one of the things I say is, these people come into your home, they don't know anything about your home. They're uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable. We don't want people in our homes that we don't know. They're going into a stranger's home. So they come in, what do I do? Always have a list for them. If you're coming Monday, let's do laundry on Monday, meal prep, and maybe some dusting. When you come back on Wednesday, we're going to go run some errands. We're going to do different things. So if they have a list, it's easier for them to follow. Now, if you don't like the person who is coming in, it doesn't matter why you don't like them. They could have one blue eye, one green eye. You call the company back and say, I'm not comfortable, because you are bringing someone into your home. And if you're not comfortable, it's not going to help. And a lot of times the folks will refuse them because they're not comfortable. The companies know how to handle that. There will be no recourse on you or your loved one because of that. So you are in control. We call it the CEO. You're up there, you're in control. You tell them what you want. You also tell them, they'll say to you, well, I have a caregiver who's available from 7 to 3, and she's great. Well, you don't get up until 10. That's not so great. But they'll try and push that on you. So you work it around your schedule, but your schedule's never set in stone. You can always change it. You can go back, this didn't work, we can try this. So don't be afraid to get in there and say, this is what I want, this is what I need. And if that company can't provide that, go to another company. But as I said, there's so many companies. Don't go to all of them. I had a lady that went to 11 different facilities, ended up back with the first facility she went to. It's too confusing. Pick 3, interview them, and you'll know. So medical home health, and this happens a lot of times after somebody leaves the hospital because it's doctor ordered. You can't just call up a home health company and say, I want home health. The doctor has to write orders for that. So typically there's an RN, a physical therapist, maybe occupational therapy, sometimes a CNA, but it's not like the non-medical companies. This person would come in, bathe, and get out. They could be there for 30 minutes. Social worker, Medicare will pay for this as long as you qualify based on the doctor's orders. So if you decide that you don't want to do physical therapy because it hurts and you send them away, first time you're okay. Second time, you're in big trouble. They're going to stop it. And that means even if the nurse or the social worker, everybody else is coming in, everybody goes away. So the cooperation is you have to be home-based. I think you can go to church and to the beauty shop maybe. But other than that, you have to be based at home and need the services, participate in it. Private insurance will also pay, but the doctor still has to order it. So if it's not something that maybe your time has run out, typically it's about 2 months is the amount of time that a medical home health group would come in. So if beyond that 2 months you think, well, mom really needs a little bit more PT, you can hire them privately and insurance can be billed for that. But it is very short term, and a lot of people do not understand that when those disciplines come into the house, they're not there more than an hour. because they think that will solve all their issues. Sometimes they come once a week. So it's a nice Band-Aid to get you back after a surgery or an episode, but it's not sustainable. So a word about hiring privately. Everybody says, I'm going to get Miss So-and-so down the street to come sit because she's sweet and she's kind. And I can't tell you the amount of people that call me at the church and say, I need somebody, who do you know in the congregation? Well, I can't, liability-wise, as far as the church is, I cannot refer anybody. But if you hire somebody privately, and it has worked out for folks, just know that you're responsible for paying them. You're responsible for their taxes. You're responsible for all their paperwork. The non-medical companies do background checks. The home health companies do background checks. You can do your own background check, but you have to pay for it. So I recently had a family that the caregiver's mother got sick. So of course that's her priority, to go to her mother instead of taking care of your mother. Now you don't have anybody, you have no backup. So if you're with a company, you do have that backup, but they'll send somebody else in. You don't know, there's lots of things that go missing in your home. If it goes missing, you have no recourse. If they fall, if they hurt themselves, you are in charge of that. Your insurance will have to cover them. Where if you hire a company, the company covers that. You do all the scheduling. So you spend that time on the phone trying to decide who's coming in, when they're coming in, when you need them. And that's a lot of work. I would not be a scheduler to save my soul. It's a lot of pieces of the puzzle going together. So, not saying that you shouldn't do, but saying you shouldn't do it. It can be scary. Just know that you have all those responsibilities if you hire somebody privately. So there's care managers, and care managers are what we call the professional daughter. And care managers are companies that will come in and do everything. They can even do guardianship. They can take mom to the doctor. They can take mom shopping. They can do everything. They can help with her finances. They do A to Z. There's a group called the Aging Life Care Professionals that you can get on their website and find folks in your area that will do this. It's expensive. I hired a group for my mom, and they saw her maybe twice, talked to me probably 4 or 5 times on the phone, and it cost me $2,000. So this does work well, though, for people who are out of town, and I wanted them to go in and check her medicines, so that was helpful to me. It also works well when the family doesn't get along. So if you're not getting along and mom's not listening to you, and for whatever reason back in your history there's been an issue, I don't want to take care of dad, these people will step in. So you can look on the, the lifecareaging.com. They have nurses, PTs, social workers, CNAs. They can cover everything. Long-term care insurance does pay for that. It is also private pay, and Medicare has just started taking a little bit of those cases. So it's really up to that company that you hire to go through and let you know up front if they can file insurance or if it can be covered. The story with my mom, she had this little system in her drawer of her pills. So they sat in this circle, and she knew when to take those pills. So I got in one day and tried to situate, well, that didn't make her happy. So when she couldn't put them in her planner, she'd just knock them all into the drawer. So they'd land in the drawer. So now we've got the pill bottles and we've got the pills in the drawer. So I wanted them to go and check, and they said she was not taking her medicines, blah, 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 and that she had another full drawer of expired medicines or medicines that she was no longer taking. So my mom says to the nurse, I'll take care of it. I said, okay. And I thought, oh, here we go. So the nurse comes back, does not look in the drawer again. My mom tells her, I took care of it. They're all gone. And she proceeds to say, and this is what she's done all my life, she would drop all the pills in a pan, she would boil them till they all melted, and then she would walk out in the yard and throw them over to the neighbor's yard. So she tells this whole elaborate story to the nurse, and the nurse buys into it, that this is what I did with the pills. But I get home a couple weeks later and all the pills are still in the drawer. They didn't get tossed over to the neighbors. But that was her quirkiness, and she repeated things, and that was in her head, so that's what she did. But she really didn't do it. I don't know what the neighbors think of her or thought of her. Here comes that lady with the drugs. Okay, so we'll skip over to facilities. So you mentioned memory care. There's independent housing. There's also adult daycare, assisted living, long-term care, and skilled nursing, and then the memory care, the rehab and skilled nursing. So a lot of folks get confused with the rehab part of this. If you go to the hospital, let's say you've had a broken hip, you need a little extra time to recover, so they will place you in a long-term care, a nursing home under rehab. And a lot of people get confused because they think they're sending them to a nursing home, which they are, but it's a specific area that they keep the rehab people. So they will bring them in, they'll do intensive PT, the nurses will get their meds regulated, different things, preparation to go home. A lot of times, especially if you have a husband and wife situation, the wife might be little and the husband is big and she can't really handle him. So he goes there to get the rehab, to get a little bit more, to get stronger, to be able to help at home. But the rehab is in a skilled facility. So, and there's only certain facilities that do rehab. Not all the nursing homes will do rehab. And that's another one. If the doctor, what happens, the doctor comes into the hospital room and says, hey, I'm going to send you to rehab. And the social worker comes in and hands you a list, and it has 100 names of rehab facilities. You have no idea. So that's when folks call me or call the care managers, because I can say, okay, tell me your income, tell me what part of town you're in, tell me what's easier. And a lot of people say, it doesn't matter, I can drive anywhere. Well, maybe for 1 or 2 days. By that 3rd or 4th day, you're exhausted to go drive and see them again, and it becomes a burden. So independent housing can be in your own home. It could be in a condo, an apartment. A lot of these facilities, they're called CCRCs. It's continuing care retirement communities, and they will go from independent living all the way to memory care or nursing home. There's only 2 or 3 here in the area that do that. So independent living could be, you could be living independently in a facility as well. The adult daycare, and I don't, because this is not what, sorry. Okay, let me go back. So this is the independent living, facility buy-in. So if you go into one of these CCRCs, a lot of times you sell your home and that's your down payment. And you can live there and then you can continue to the services, so you're first in line. So if you're in the CCRC and I'm in the CCRC, or I'm not, you get first choice. If we're both sick at the same time, they're going to take you because you're a member. So that's part of what you're paying for. A lot of places now have said we'll go month to month, which is a lot nicer, that you're not selling your home, but you typically would have to sell your home to help pay for it because that would be private pay. So you're selling your home, but you're renting month to month. You're not locked into a lease. You're not locked into, I've bought this piece of property, now what am I going to do? So the first step could be adult daycare, and there's several daycares around. It's an all-day program, typically 9 to 6. They will get, or 7 to 6. They will get lunch, they get exercise, they're socialized, and they're entertained during the day. Most of them are at this point about $100 a day for these services. Now, we have what the program I told you that we started at Harpeth Hills is called the Sunny Day program. And there's 4 churches that are involved in the Sunny Day program. And for 3 hours, we will bring in folks with dementia so that their caregivers can go and spend some time for themselves. And a lot of them go to all 4 of the churches right now that do it. The cost to go to Sunny Day is $1. Now, it is all volunteer run. The volunteers are typically from our church. There's some that are wayward and go to other churches. But they come in. If I could tell you the volunteers, the looks on their faces when they are taking care of these people, it's amazing. It is a blessing to them. It's a blessing to the families. It's a blessing to the members. We laugh, we sing, we play games, have lunch together. They bring their lunch. They have to be able to transfer on their own, but if they come in a wheelchair, they have to stay in that wheelchair for the day. They have to be continent or have products that are taking care of that during the time, and they have to be able to feed themselves. So we've got groups, they come in, they come out. We've started a year and a half ago, and I think we've lost maybe 3 people in that time. So they come consistently and enjoy the time. It's 11 to 2 because we've had breakfast, we've had our morning medicines, we have lunch, probably they've had a bowel movement, and then after 2, they're tired and ready to go home and have a nap. Some of them nap while they're there in their chairs. Larry, how many, you go to 2 or 3 of the 2 of them, and there's a new one in the works for Fridays. So that man is coming this Thursday. You can talk to him, the gentleman from music for seniors. So next is assisted living. Remember those 5 things that they had to be able to do to go into the assisted living. The other thing that they must be able to exit the facility of their own accord in 13 minutes. So that could be they have to roll themselves out on a wheelchair, they have to be able to walk or get to somewhere at the end of the hallway that somebody can put them in a wheelchair and help them out. But that is the huge criteria as far as assisted livings. Now, they will tag that on and say, well, if you bring your own caregiver in on top of the assisted living, then we'll be able to help with that as well. So now you're double dipping. You're paying for a caregiver, $40 an hour, and you're paying for the assisted living. 24 hours care. They assist with medicine, so you turn your medicines over and they will provide the medicines just as if you were in a hospital with the little cups, and they bring them around and monitor them. All your meals are provided, transportation, whether it be to a doctor or whether it be to some fun outing. They have all of that there for you. The personal care, so the bathing and the dressing, they can help with that. There's all sorts of activities, all different levels that you can join in on. They do have medical care on site, so an assisted living has to have a medical director. That medical director will either come themselves or send a nurse practitioner in at least every other week, if not every week, just to do check-ins. So if your loved one has a cold or something's going on, utilize that doctor. Don't put them in a car and take them somewhere. I advise people just to turn, if they're primary care doctors, over to the medical director at the facilities because they can do everything. They bring in podiatrists, they bring in dermatologists, all sorts of people. You can get all your services right there. The questions you want to ask about an assisted living is, do they have an RN who is available at night? They all have RNs during the day. Well, I don't say all, most of them do. Now, memory care does. Memory care always has an RN. But the LPNs have to be able to contact the RN or the doctor at night if something happens. So they'll say, well, we have them, but they're not on campus. So that's one of the things you want to ask when you go in. Assisted living is private pay. So it's private pay, goes back to that long-term care. Some long-term care insurances cover it. Medicare does not pay for it. Medicaid does not pay for it. So it can be quite costly. You would probably be in the range of $4,800 and to maybe $6,000 for an assisted living monthly. But now, step back and think a minute. Remember that the caregivers are $40 an hour, round the clock? That $5,000 looks pretty sweet compared to what you would pay around the clock. My mother, I had her moved into a independent living, and she had all these things there for her, but she wouldn't do it. And she'd say, I'm looking at the same four walls every day. So I just got to where I would say, that's your choice. We've got everything laid out here. You've got to choose what you want to do. So a lot of folks will say, Mom never gets involved. That's their choice. I mean, some people, they prefer to be quiet and be alone. The flip side of that is, and so often, that people thrive. They just thrive because they have people their own age they're talking to. There's decorations that are geared to their ages, and there's activities. And so all of a sudden, this person who was at home and feeling depressed is now out doing things. And the other side of it are the caregivers are saying, I can't even find her. I go to visit and she's never around. She's out doing an activity. So they are very beneficial. Then the long-term care in the nursing home. So to be in a nursing home, you have to need some sort of skilled care. So that means, do you need injections? Are you bedbound? You're no longer able to ambulate. This does look like a hospital setting. Now, it doesn't look like Nurse Ratchet's hospital setting. It's a little bit better than that, but it's still more hospital-like. The assisted livings, you bring your own furniture, you have your own apartment, you have that independence as well. And this is also where the rehab takes place in the long-term care. Long-term care, private pay. You're looking at maybe $11,000 a month for long-term care. Now, long-term care insurance will pay for that as well. And those benefits that we talked about, the VA benefits, if you're a veteran, there's benefits you can tap into. So, and the guide, no, the guide does not cover that because you're not at home. So it's very costly. The deal is, a lot of people will say, well, I can keep them at home cheaper. Maybe, but are they safe? And that's my key that I tell all families. Are they safe and are you safe? Because if you're scared to help them get in and out of the shower, or you're scared to help them or transfer because you're not strong enough, number one, you can guarantee they're scared that you're coming to help them, and you yourself are not feeling confident. So the fact that they're not safe, they need to go somewhere. Now, we all have heard it. Mama made me promise I'd never send her to a nursing home. You said you wouldn't. So my thought is, I tell my people, you go back and say, I said I would take care of you the best way I could. You're not safe here, so this is how I'm taking care of you. The other side of that, especially if it's towards the end of life, the caregiver gets to be the daughter, the wife, the husband, the sister. They're not doing the hands-on caregiving. They're still advocating, but they aren't stressed, and they're hopefully getting sleep at home. So it's a help that way that you can change. Memory care. Typically, you have assisted livings with memory care or a skilled nursing facility with memory care. Not all of them have it, so that is a question to ask if they have memory care. Memory care will bump up a couple $1,000s from that assisted living. It is a secured and locked area. The caregivers are trained for dementia patients. The patient ratio is much smaller. These areas are typically decorated in timepieces of things that they remember, trains, or they have doll babies, and they have the old-timey phones and things like that. So it's very comforting. They also typically have a space, because if you've ever cared with somebody with dementia, you know that they like to walk. And so there's typically safe areas for them to walk, whether it's around the nurse's station or they might have a courtyard outside that they can go out and walk. They still take their meals together if they're able to, or you can take it into their rooms. So, who do you call? If you've heard of Age Well, Tennessee, they have a directory both online and there is a book. I don't see, do you have any? That book, that is the social worker's Bible. Don't tell my bosses. But that is, they have every facility that's out there. And if they take Medicare, if they take Medicaid, if it's private pay. So it gives a lot of information. But again, we go back to the idea of don't visit all of them. Pick the ones that are closer to you, the ones that meet your needs, and visit a few. The doctors, honestly, the doctors don't know a whole lot. They might know one or two, and that's who they defer to. So ask around, and it's really a wealth of information when you talk to other people that are doing caregiving, because they can say, yes, this was an okay experience, no, it wasn't, and this is why. So really get in there and ask people. You can ask your church, you can ask friends and colleagues, but that's pretty much how you determine which way to go, and then once you interview them, you'll know if you feel comfortable there. And that's it. I'm sorry that the other stuff that was in there is not in there. It was more about taking care of yourself as a caregiver. But caregiving journey, it's hard. And we're not all perfect, and we're not always happy, except for maybe you, Tamara. But it's okay, and it's normal to be frustrated. It's normal to be angry, and it's normal to just be exasperated. And what do I do next? But if you get up every single day and you show up, you're a good caregiver, because there's a lot of people that don't have that. So we just get back up the next day, it's a new day, and start trying all over again. So that's it. Oh, the one thing I did want to add, when you go into the assisted living facilities, the key word is ask for their bottom price or their top price. Tell me what it is, because a lot of times they'll get you in there at $3,800 and then they add money. Oh, well, we're going to bathe now, so it's another $500, and before you know it, you're up at $6,000. So you want to ask them, I want to know what the full price is, not what's going to get me in the door. So, thank you. Thank you.